The 19th and 20th of June of this year will mark the 50th anniversary of the Castries fire of 1948. Although not vastly documented in history books and on film, the fire played a fundamental role within the lives of many St. Lucians living in Castries, thus making it a historic event of importance. The fire started in a tailor's shop on the night of Saturday the 19th of June at about 8 p.m. in the evening. Shortly, it began to spread in all directions, setting all in its path alight. Soon it seemed that the whole of Castries was up in smoke. Many attempts were made to fight the fire, but an absence of sufficient water pressure from the town board mains and chaotic brigade procedure resulted in the town burning down. 388 buildings were destroyed, most of which have been made up the commercial and industrial center of town. Castries was in devastation. Within the next 30 minutes, Dove Productions will be taking you back in time on a fantastic journey. You will visit Castries before, during and after the fire through the stories of the people that were actually there. In these few minutes, you will learn of the Castries of old and the way in which we ended up with the city that we have today. Believe me, this is something that you cannot miss.
The people used to get on all right. It had domestic servants. You know, you work by the month. When you get 10 shillings a month is just like when you're getting $500 a week here. Now, you understand? But we did like it. And we had something, you know. People coming from the country, you go in, they buy fig, whatever they're selling, like figs, and you go and sell it over. Sometimes we had Mr. Clark and Heben. They used to buy, they had a place like a factory. They buy lines, and you have to roll it and put it in the barrel to send away. I used to work in it too. Limes, pears, oranges, and so on, you know, to send away. We had all that, and we had good and we had bad.
Children had to learn to do certain things. I mean, there was hardly any time for idling. If you're not at school, you had to learn a trade or something. So the girls more or less went into sewing and crocheting, knitting and whatnot. And the boys would have to learn some form of trade, whether it be carpentry, masonry, printing, anything at all. At least, otherwise you would be at school. From the time you leave school, then you have to find something to do. And normally some schoolmasters never let you go until you got a job, even though you had the age to leave school.
I used to get 5 cents when 5 cents is raining all that time, until it come 10 cents. So whenever now I on my way going to get a little job for anybody, God always make me get a little something in the road, and whenever I get that, I used to go and buy a little sugar, because that time sugar cheap, a little pound of sugar, and whatever, a little bread and so on, you know, rice and so whatever God gave me, I used to make a little message and go up and prepare it for my mother and father.
It was a night, around 8 o'clock the night, where I was living was a place named Mondino, and I can remember hey, me villa pudife, me villa pudife. When I did look, I see the fire. I hearing people up and down the road saying, Kote Adonis di Fiapui. Kote Adonis. This Adonis was a tailor fella. That was in Victoria Street, opposite the Booties. Adonis was in that corner, Booty was on the other side. And below was a shop there. And this fire started blazing and blazing and continue going up and going up and going up and going up.
I was a scout So I normally had my lanyard with me, you see, lanyard and whistle. And I went out there and saw the smoke and fire started. So I ran down Victoria Street because the fire brigade station, Castries Fire Brigade Station, was down Victoria Street. I ran down there. And when I got there, I saw some brigades playing dominoes. So I shouted to them, I said, come, there's a big fire up the road and you're all down here playing dominoes. Anyway, they got up and they got together. See, in those days, you only had a cart and your fire hoses. I mean, there was no form of mechanical transport. Anyway, they got up there and they tried, because normally, normally I ran back up the road, and by the time I ran back up the road, the fire started spreading like mad. Low houses, high houses, then it started crossing the street. And my grandmother-in-law lived in St. Louis Street, and I had to turn there to try and help save what we could.
It take Adonis' house. Adonis was a photographer. When fire caught in that house, I was upstairs in that house. I heard the people saying, I don't know who were, but I heard they saying, Munakia kaya Adonis la kaila pidi fe. Kaila pidi fe. I was searching to see if I could get anything to save for them. I get a little box about that width, so tall. When I heft it, I feel it was a little heavy. I take it up. I headed straight to my home, that is Mondido, and I put it there. With the intention it was something good I had saved for them. It was good, all right, because it was medicine inside that box. It was a medicine box they had just prepared in case of anything, which it did happen, truly.
We were a very divided society. Class was imminent. The question of the class structure was well established. But that night, I saw people, the aristocracy, running around town in their 90s to get away from the fire. And they were very glad to have the people that they probably snubbed to assist them.
Because some people took things here, took things there. They loaded the trucks, whether it was their truck or not. And then later on, there was a little confusion in getting some of the things, because some people took other people's things anyway. When you realize that you recovered it anyway, some of them they recovered, some they didn't. But I think Castries were in an uproar at the time.
The fire now burning, and there's a young woman named Gladys stirring all in the fire to see what she could get. So you see nice mattresses, you know, those nice spring mattresses, spun. I say, John, take that home for me, please. Say yes, help me up. I help him. Now Gladys living there, but he take there for to carry it for me. I don't worry. Ask another one. When I see things going so, I don't worry. I can carry it. So I could take what I want. So I see, in walking, I see two little nice aluminum pans. Lovely, saying, take me up, please. I take them. So all things that is easy, I used to take it. And the following day, I pass, and what I could take, I take, because I had a teacup and saucer that burn and it make one. I did take it as a, you know, like if now I did have it, I could show it to you. You understand? I had spoons and I had all these things. I had pieces of cloth. What I could take, you know, and I do little things with it. And things was all right with me, you know, yeah. But I can't complain.
I ran from Bakatri. I ran down to my place. And then they put out all lights, everybody in darkness. I had a torchlight, but that wouldn't do much. Then some people came to help me, and whatever I could get out, I took out. And then when I carried them, what I get out, I carry it and put it in a house. You know, around this square, and you go around this square, on the western side, you cross Brazil Street, a house about there. I asked a girl of mine to put them there for me. All right. So then I went to old Mrs. Sal. I went to help them. And right. So when I went back now, the lady was parked her car by Beggars. So I went and took out my things from that house and put it in the car to carry up to Bangalore. When you hear this story, fire reached there also, the same house where my things were.
I hear people say there was a pigeon carrying this fire from one to the next. I will not say as much, because I did not see any pigeon. What I will say, when a rum shop catch a fire, the heat, the bottles, when they will burst, when it is spirit in there, when it bursts out and the pieces going out, it going out with flames, and it catching another place. But some of the people say it was a pigeon flying, bringing fire from one place to the next. I cannot say as much.
I saw a white bird flying up in the air, say by the presbytery. So when I looking all the time, I see the fire now take over the church, the Catholic Church. When it take over the Catholic Church, it went and it rests a little by Montplaisir after the Catholic Church. It left by Montplaisir building. It didn't stay long. The fire take a little there. And then now the fire went right away down, going down by Beggars. The bird, wherever the bird fly, the fire catch.
The fire burnt and burnt and burnt and burnt, and I think what helped us was the fire brigade from Vieux-Fort. I think the Americans were down at the time, and they came to help us save Castries from actually going flat, because there are a lot of fire skipped from here to there, and it just went like that. And you could imagine people looting. That was another thing too. They didn't care to hide the stores. They got as much as they could. But then, as I said, everybody tried to help others. I mean, if you were not in the fire, you did help. And it was, in those days, it was a matter of, I would say, people were a little more united than now.
And when they reached by the bridge, you see by the bridge, you see the other piece that there by the bridge coming, so by Beggars side, When it reached, so the soldiers came, and they had the river, you see the river, and it's the river they take and try and get out the fire. Now, the big blaze did out, but the fire itself was still burning.
Now the bird flying, when it left Beggars, it go across like that, where the people and them had they stole. Can't remember the people name, but they had they stole. I looking all the time. Whilst I looking, I see the bird going across, go right away down by the library side. So whilst I looking and see the bird going there, I see the fire break out wide. Anyhow, I ain't left which part I was to follow the fire, to see where the fire going on. I stay there, the same place, one place, just by the presbytery there. I stand up there, looking at the fire, and I see wherever the fire taking place, the bird, the white bird.
When the college catch a fire, I saw that. When they catch it, and it burned and burned and burned, and there was a big Julie mango tree. I believe that is what saved the presbytery. Because when it started burning there, with all the green leaves, maybe it wouldn't go any further. Because there were green mangoes, there were ripe mangoes, because that mango tree never ceased from having mangoes, bearing all through the year. All through the year it's bearing. Next day you could meet cooked mangoes on the ground because they were all cooked.
Half of the town were wiped out, what you see, on the middle part and the western, northern side. But the western side is by the square side, nothing touched there. That's all I can remember, of course. And everybody was down and out.
After the fire, which raged from the 19th to the 20th, we then, in the electricity department, had to get down and do something to restore supply. All the copper which we then used was burnt. It was hard-drawn copper. Number 5 copper and number 3 copper, which then served the Castries area. We then had to remove all the copper and replace them. Fortunately, we had the lines run along steel poles. Poles were not burnt, and the metal was not burnt. So we were able quickly to restore supply by running new lines and restoring supply.
After the fire, I was taking it easy because where I was working, the house got burned. But she told me, well, you know, I cannot afford. I said, I will stay with you because it's not this accident. I would stay and I stay with her until she catch herself, you know, and I go back and I stay with her all the time. And I take it easy because I see the fire ready. What else I could do? I couldn't do nothing. But I got a lot of pieces of cloth, fire relief, you know, pants, shoes. I had 2 pairs of shoes in my hands, so a man came running and give me pudui. The thing runs so, and he take all 2. So it was a spree-like for me, you know. At the beginning, I was afraid of the fire, but when I see it continuing, I take it as a joke, you know, and I did enjoy it. But after the fire now, I start to pick up things like everybody.
They had to set up this rationing place in the Conway, and you had to go and queue up and line up for rations. Right? I did a little of that because I was in scouting. You would be prepared to do anything, and you had to work. So I helped them in the distribution of some of that stuff. It is quite true that people said that, you know, those who had it got a little more than those who didn't have it. See? But as I said, in most things, some people do that.
That time, you couldn't get work to do as you ought. Whatever little job for anybody, you get like a little scrubbing the place, cleaning or weeding, you know, in front of the place, the yard for them. I used to go and ask. So when I go now, who have, they used to tell me, yes, come. And I used to go and get a little job to do.
A warship came into the harbor and things like that because, as I said before, we were under Crown Colony government. So a warship came around, but basically, the work of restoration, the restoration exercise was done by the staff of the then Castries Town Council Electricity Department.
Before the fire, quite a number of our people, you know, the bad ones, slept on the houses. And I am proud to say that after the fire, there was no such thing. Nobody was found on the houses sleeping anymore.
It was a hard economic period, very hard economic period. But we have survived.
Many lessons were learned from the fire. many of them stemming from the negative aspects of the catastrophe. However, the underlying lesson that St. Lucians of today can gather from the event stems from the positive. A lesson on St. Lucian unity and strength was also learnt. The ways that people from all different walks of life came together to help each other and prevail against the odds. The way in which they worked side by side to help get their city, their home, up and running, thus resulting in the glorious city of Castries that we have today, with its hustle and bustle as well as its beauty spots.